Hey, what's up, everybody? It is me, Tom. You can find me over at cannabisindustrylawyer.com. You're tuned into the number one cannabis legalization news podcast on YouTube. We have our election results video today. You're not going to believe who won the election. No, if you're tuning in, you'd probably believe who won the election. Most of our viewers actually voted for this guy, and we're going to go over the election results. What does this mean for cannabis legalization? I think they're a little bit overconfident, but that's like par for the course. If this is your first time joining, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that and then leave us a comment either in the live chat or just below. And then consider subscribing if this is your ballywick. Now, let's get into our trending news. There's some very interesting data that we're going to go over from the presidential election from last week. Boom. There we go. Yeah, shout out to Will. Unfortunately, he has to take care of some stuff and do our backgrounds. And that's one of the reasons why we're live now. We may edit this and then put it back up for the people that didn't catch it live later.
Well, we're just trying to expand the channel, expand the knowledge.
And so will Trump allow us to expand the channel, will he?
That's semantical, right? Like there's kids with like 100K subscribers, right? So I don't think the cannabis conversation is going to be.
You can watch those channels that have 100K subscribers and then look at their view count and they ain't got views.
There's also the ones like T with P, right? He's a Canadian that when I watch his live streams, because that's what these kids do, streaming. So like they're streaming for an hour, 2 hours. Even Luke, who we had on the show several times, right?
Watch Luke's videos. A lot of them don't get views.
No, I know, but I don't think it's he's buying stuff. Matter of fact, I look at our analytics, dude, and I want to first shout out Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Those are our top 3 states of viewers. That's real-time analytics. If you're LGBT, you're appreciated, you're loved, you're part of the community. That's what we're going to do.
And we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. And so get in touch with us over at the comments. That'll be the easiest way. After that, what did you think about this week election? I tell you, it was fascinating.
I saw in Trump's tweets where there might be some election fraud. So I don't know if the results are yet to be accepted, right? There's some shenanigans.
If you win, there wasn't fraud. If you don't win, then maybe some fraud. There was some fascinating stuff that came out. That was the last thing. 538 projection model. And you can see this is the tallest one for ours. The most likely out of all the possible, this is probably like a Monte Carlo statistical analysis. And if you guys have a political science degree, do leave that in the comments because we want to hear from people that have political science degrees. It was the most likely one and said 312. Theirs is 226. And it was 312 to 226. So they just called it today, but the model was correct. They had basically a 50-50. And just seemed like she had more ability, but like it's if you flip a coin 100 times and it comes up and it just magically lands on the edge once, but then the most likely happened.
But you gotta give it to the Republicans as far as like the fear mongering goes. Like they nailed it when it came to like just scaring the shit out of people and saying, "Oh, hey, all those trans immigrants are coming for your jobs." Like whatever, it's another fucking America did America, like Florida does Florida, right?
Like we're becoming LA where there's just no middle class. And so that's really what I think a lot of it is. A lot of people are just, and then men have been made to be the bully since Donald Trump won the first time. So he was able to really reach out to a lot of men and get them to vote for him.
If you think about it, dude, with the analytics, like you're saying about the numbers coming up, a lot of people who were the young voters when his first term was out were like 14. He's appealed to the YouTuber Eden Ross and Logan Paul crowd, right? These kids were raised by a chair sniffer who does dumb shit for tricks and Mr. Beast and stuff, right?
He also appeared on Joe Rogan. That was seen by bazillions, millions of people. So I'm not that worried. I am a white male who owns a business.
Me too, because I'm the partner.
We're gonna change. Actually, you have a pretty white last name, so we don't have to change.
And then when people hear me talk, it's oh shit, we thought we didn't. But you know who doesn't have a chance? Florida.
No chance. That is our next story. And so now that we've talked, maybe we should dive in a little bit as to what is this? Do you really think Because I see all these people, oh, he's going to legalize it and all this other stuff. I'm just getting stolen from, which
Oh God, yes.
and then it's copyright violations on both parts. But then he still has a cookies. Please do accept the he's
Here, let me. You
oh,
want to share?
I got it. I got it. Yeah. And so it's called Trump Weed, DonaldTrumpWeed.com. Don't forget to get your free gift. You get a free gram of THCA flower. And so how Trump legalized weed. And then it's like Trump made weed legal, explained by me, which I've never spoken to this guy. And he's using the video that I did mostly satirically about it. And then again, it's total THC of 22%. That is not hemp. That's not. And so a lot of the federal government's not supposed to be that. But then not only is he using that, he's just straight up using Donald Trump. And Donald wants to wet his beak on this. He's not to be able to get away with it.
It's only a matter of time before he tries to copyright the president's seal.
He don't think he's
Sarcasm.
either.
I tell my wife, as long as we've been doing this, you did this we started this podcast during the Trump era, right? Like the beginning of his first term. And I saw my wife was like, Tom, I think you were one of the first, because there's plenty of cannabis lawyers out there and everybody has a perspective. But when this farm bill came about, that was one of the first things you were preaching about. And me, as a consumer who lives in a state that pretty much has done good legalization, for at least when it comes to options for the consumer, because I just go to the store, buy an ounce, they'll ask me for whatever long, and then I go buy another one without like a gun registry.
Quality of selection.
So your champion of the logistics of the law has enabled a bunch of these hemp people to be in business, which we call gas station
$0.
Well,
$0.
that's not the law works. Right?
Pay me a couple $100. And then I would explain to him that I don't think it's really legal. And then they would go hire Rod Kite, who hopefully charged him more than $0. I just hated the phone calls with the hempsters because you have a client and everything he wants to do is to try to avoid the law or try to skirt the law or not comply with it or say, like, can I do this? Is there a way that I can lawyer that? And I'm like, look, there are limits. Like, lawyers are not supposed to help you break the fucking law.
Right.
And they don't care. They don't care. And that's one of those things, though, where I watched The Apprentice movie this weekend it's mostly about Roy Cohn and Donald's intro into what he became. There's a line you're not supposed to cross, and most Americans don't have it. And there's an old story from Sam Zell. He's a mensch. He's dead, but he's a mensch. He's a good guy. I'm not Jewish, and so I can't remember the particular Yiddish word that he used for describing it. But he was a young real estate developer, and he was buying buildings for plottage. And plottage is basically like where you are able to put properties together, and then it's worth more than what it was for you paid for it.
Gotcha.
And so he is talking to somebody who wants to buy their property, and they say, you got to pay us more than what you pay our neighbor. And he's, I can't pay you more than what you pay a neighbor. I'm going to pay you the same thing I'm going to pay your neighbor, because otherwise you're going to talk to somebody and they're going to want more, and then they're going to want more. And then suddenly my financial model is just completely forcocked. And then this thing's underwater and I can't do anything and everybody's screwed. And he goes, and then the neighbors say, pay us more and we won't tell anybody. And that's 50% of America, at least. Oh, 50% of America is out there for them. Fuck everybody else. And it's just that hempster right there. Miggy and I got to get a shop open. They aren't going to come to our shop. They want you to go buy their weed online called THCA flower.
In our Slack, I shared with you an article I wrote 10 years ago on rescheduling, right? Here, I'll put it in the chat. But like the fact that I've been trying to advocate for just some change that will give citizens empowerment, but not just empowerment for the end user, but empowerment for the business. Like fair business, a good business is like traceability. As someone who works in the test and measurement industry for the past 17 years, I've done some of the most fucked up shit. Like I've worked for fucked up companies and done horrible things and passed horrible, because that was their model. And that's what they don't, the lowest bidder mentality. That's where we're at. And that's what's going to be enabled coming up. That's what hemp has enabled, right? Because the hemp cannabis conversation, high hemp with the extracting, there's so many, where the recall is going to happen. I signed up for all these.
There's no rules for it. Again, it's all production side. It's not when you're using it. And so None of the hemp was earmarked for human consumption. Nobody understands that. Even though I told them some of these things, you do a video, it gets viewed a million times. People freaking then take it, use it, and they think it's law. And then it's just so
Well,
freaking annoying. But let's talk about Florida, because
yeah.
Florida has this juxtaposition between, okay, the Republicans are coming. Like
Mhm.
they want everything, bro. They want everything. And Elon is going to take all of your personal data and fire past the government and make you dependent on Tesla and SpaceX. So for business. But the reason why they had to do an amendment was because the Florida legislature hates weed so much it would never get out to a vote. So they had to put it out as a constitutional amendment, very corporate, no home grow, not going to change anything. It would basically make all of the cannabis companies that already exist in Florida a lot of money, but they had to get 60%. They only got 56%. And so it's failed. Look at this. This is our first of, it was 0 for 3 in the red wall. The adult use red wall is very real. 0 for 3 for legalizing it. Florida amendments to legalize recreational false wasn't the best.
Yeah. Doesn't I find this to be a prime example of America, right? Where you needed 60% of the vote, but 56% of your more that's 60% barrier. And I find it more unfortunate too, where like, it's like living in the outside, this legalization. And it's really weird to see how truly this has been made a villain in this whole process where, oh shit, it's our turn. Take a break.
It's 20 past the hour, everybody. We'll be back to dissect more of Florida and what it means for the next 4 years after this short commercial break from our sponsor, Collateral Base. And that's what happens because I am what they call a perfectionist. And so when somebody codes something poorly, like this right here to the right, I realize this doesn't get very many views and it does not make me any money. But we're trying to expand our product offering. And then I get code like this and I'm like, okay,
We're trying.
yes, all sorts of brand offership stuff.
Yes. Yeah. No, go there, go to the website. And if you have a grow, we love to have you on Name the Strain, right?
We do not accept intoxicating hemp sponsors.
Go say truly was demonized because they're shady. And look, man, I'm not mad at Kim Rivers. Make your bag. Your husband does matter. I don't judge people's lives.
There's a limited market and then there's Florida. And I think Florida's gone too far. I think Missouri is the limited market. That makes sense. Washington State, where you're at, is a great limited market. That makes sense. Arizona. That one goes a little too far, in my opinion. Illinois, if they would not have had hemp, just completely make them be not 500, 600 dispensaries in the state, 16,000. And it really is the policy goals that your state has. And then also it's the regulatory oversight that they have. And so if Schedule 3 happens, who knows if that's going to happen, then the security, compliance, banking, restrictive hurdles that you face will go down. And it should be cheaper to open a dispensary. But a lot of the people in the hemp industry, they think that dispensaries are superfluous. You do not need them.
None of these markets are fair, or they all cost 1.5 million or so to just get even started. There's no guarantee.
Correct. But then it's also bullshit in the sense that all these hemp beverages, they have contracts with liquor distributors trying to shit on other licenses. And they don't care. Again, it's all about, fuck you. The money comes to me. That guy that was using my face in my video, that Donald Trump to sell THCA weed.
No, I get it.
That Cheech and Chong that are trying to stock. I mean, go get a Cheech and Chongs, and I don't understand how they're compliant with the 0.3% by dry weight basis because everything that they say on it is zero. You turn the Cheech and Chong thing over the back, there's not 1 gram of shit in that can except for hemp and extracts. And so how is that compliant?
Compliant with who, right? Because the thing about
Compliant with the Farm Bill. Yeah. So the FDA is RFK that's going to go wild on medicine and just fire half of the people in the FDA. You think that's going to help them regulate the food supply better? The next time that McDonald's gives everybody E. coli, we might not know that it's traced to the onions.
Yeah. But again, this is going to be an example of the failings that are going to be coming, right? the crystal ball of the bullshit to come, because we already saw it 4 years ago or 8 years ago, right? I don't know why people. It's again, it's like the whole.
They're
I've
pissing me
always,
off. So
yeah, but like I've always felt that I lived in the America that didn't was going to come after me as a pothead minority, right? Like I always felt like I had to watch over my shoulder or whatever all the time. Whereas now I don't. Like I live in good blue state, safe. Your your electronic vapes.
any trip to any store, Walmart, Target, any store, will now cost 10%, 20% more. And so take a picture of where shit is right now or where shit will be on January 20th, and then look in another 4 years, especially considering AI will be 4 years into the future from where it is now. ChatGPT is about 2 years old. Now, not just double it, but double it, and then start inserting robots.
Stabby with policy is like still fucking. This is why I say, like, why is everybody mad about Kim Rivers giving 1.7 million to put this on the ballot where you guys aren't going to see this shit for a while? It takes money to put things on the thing. It'd be nice if grassroots people did shit and actually mattered, but no. I think the average person is trying to survive, right? Like an average American.
The average American's trying to survive. And then, so like Kim Rivers, 144 million. And by Kim Rivers, we mean True Leaf Cannabis Company. But Wisconsin-based Herb, Wisconsin Hemp Company, donated 125,000, and they won. But they had to get 60% of the vote, and every state that's red that had adult use legalization on the ballot failed.
Because you didn't get people, you haven't get care. The average citizen in Florida doesn't give a fuck, right? Like they don't care that Mylar bags are going to go up price, so it's going to probably be the price of your weed come with tariffs. They don't look at the cannabis industry or cannabis, right? I don't even know. Their fear is like the immigrant invasion that's not happening. Like I don't get. Isn't America supposed to be?
But then Florida pitted hemp and cannabis directly against one another. And then like you have DeSantis saying, I don't want Florida to smell like weed. And meanwhile, he's taking money from people that are selling weed, because if you go light up a THCA pre-roll or start hitting those vapes of course smell way less, but still that's going to smell like weed by a lot.
Do you think the new administration is going to block rescheduling? Because I know only we have on December 2nd the conversation for venting the 25 people, but is there going to be a post? Once something's in courts and law, does it have to be scheduled, or can it be like committees?
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's after we place a name that strain. I got to name that strain that then leads in to Trump's attorney general pick. Hey, if you have not yet, don't forget to hit the likes, hit the subscribes, and then tune in for about another 20 minutes after Name That Strain. We have a very special election edition, Name That Strain, that goes into what will Trump pick for his attorney general, as that really allows the marching orders for what's going to happen, at least at the administrative level. Because Congress right now, dude, that has to be real big. Tomorrow, pass a law, and then Biden could sign it for another 2 months.
Will the Republicans care enough?
They have blocked you've blocked safe banking. And so talk about dipping the toe in the water of changing the legal status of marijuana, natural, not this Frankenweed that's made in the lab after you can't sell your CBD hemp. So why the hempsters think this is going to survive is beyond me. And then we have our next story out of Florida, which makes me just continue to like just scratch my head and be like, I don't understand why they think this is going to continue. Because this one out of the Miami Herald, high potency of pesticides, marijuana being sold over the counter in Florida as hemp. This came out on November 3rd. This is a new article. And then they have some pretty interesting totals from it, that they have Sauce Lava, a rechargeable vape pen, and Tampa Kush Cloud at 76.1 total THC. And then Smoke Bodega, 19% total THC, psychoactive flower, and all that. And so it's one of these deals where what is the unregulated market giving us? And then they go into later, that's in our talking points. I don't know if you have those up. We can try. I'm going back to, I'm producing the show on your porch.
We're juggling here, folks.
Yeah.
But like also because like for me, this is hemp cannabis conversation is muy importante. Like we need to explain and express to people. Like there's so many people who are cannabis activists who are pro hemp because they're getting their foot in the door and they're getting their bag, right? Like, it's cool. Get your bag, right? Whatever.
But is it okay if somebody starts murdering motherfuckers to get their bag?
That's part of it. But like the conversation of, I think the consumers get in ignorance.
Right? Cat that's trying to steal licenses in Chicago. Is it okay to illegally gamble to take somebody's shit?
As a consumer, though, right? As Americans, they're being deceived to the point that, like, I can consume a hemp product and not pot on a piss test, right?
False.
But that is your body is regulated. Like
Right.
you could get, they can regulate your body still because this plant is not identified.
It's dead.
We live in a fucked up place, but
Hey, and so much so that you can go to Florida, and Lakeland's Modern Canada Laboratories was the tester, and they found only one of 3 certified by the state in that. So they were the one who was going to test it. They tested 22 joints, canisters, and bags of hemp, 12 vapes, and 7 gummies were tested. Among those 41 samples, 35 were over the line. So they tested all of those at Lakeland Modern Canada Laboratories. 35 out of 41 failed. So Ron DeSantis is fine with marijuana sales, provided you give him money and you don't have to call it legalization.
and again, this ain't about protecting the consumers. Like I'm looking at this jar here. I'm looking at the test results. I have CBD results, percentages for components of cannabinoids, but there's no, it says independently tested, pesticide free. I don't know. I trust though. I trust that my market here now, that these things are being regulated.
Like if you have a testing license, that's just like the S&P 500 that happened to us. The mortgage ratings back in 2008, you go down to Moody's, you go down to the S&P. Somebody's going to give us a 100% A+ rating on this mortgage bond. That's just shit wrapped up in Shinola that are trying to sell as a security. And so they had regulators then. They aren't going to spend money on the regulators. And so this is the perverse incentive. We have no federal regulators right now when it comes to marijuana or hemp.
No.
0. And so hopefully we get some under the rescheduling, but I don't know if the rescheduling is going to happen.
I also throw out to you though, see, like right now it's a state thing, right? And this is whole throw things to the state is dumb bullshit that waste your time as a citizen. But like, they are set out to break up regulation, right? Break up regulators. They think it's a good thing that for every 1 rule added, 10 rules are taken away, which is dumb shit because there's a lot of fucked up shit that happens that you learn as things go. But when you start giving this willy-nilly like free for all, it's going to be the person who created it is not going to be held accountable, right? They're still trying to hold.
Again, we are done testing the weed. We know that 35 out of 41's over the line, but then 26 out of 41 failed pesticide and fungicide tests. And so you are taking an agricultural commodity, putting it into the food supply and advertising how it gets people high without any regulations. And then Project 2025 is coming to the Hill. Schedule 3 might grind to a halt, and all that shit that's in hemp might get Schedule 1 too.
Would it? That's the other thing too, the Farm Bill, right? Will that be a thing that'll come back? Because these are the things that are going to
What's a farm bill? A farm bill is the USDA. It does have to do with food stamps, but then it also defines the Agricultural Marketing Act of 1946. And what is number 2 yellow corn? What is oats? What is an agricultural commodity? So what is hemp as an agricultural commodity? Not as a consumable product, but as an agricultural commodity. And you're going to see that definition change. And there's reasons why we'll talk. And the red wall really comes down to, is weed medical or not? And so that was really interesting. We got the USDA today. Follow marijuana election results across Florida, Nebraska, South Dakota, and North Dakota. And so we've already talked about Florida at length. And now we can lump in North Dakota and South Dakota in one state because there's less than 2 million people that are there. That's absolutely true. Florida's got like 20 plus times the population that North and South Dakota combined have together.
That's it. Just there's certain areas that you probably should drive fast through, and I hate to say it, but there's a predominance of ignorance that live in these areas, right? It's not
I think they don't need more. They don't,
be with hemp.
they don't want people doing it. I don't know how much hemp is in North and South Dakota because they're in very conservative states. There's a lot of hemp though, actually in Nebraska right now. That 20 odd attorney generals that wrote the letter, the vast majority of them are probably from these very conservative states. That's not going away.
They have to have hemp, right? Because unless there's a rule against it in those states, which has not happened.
Every state can say that it's not legal to do that because it's still a Schedule I substance. And then the authorities could prosecute. And so I just think there was a lack of enforcement, and there may still continue to be a lack of enforcement. But then suddenly, if they start enforcing the stop signs again, and you're like, what? You said I didn't have to enforce this. That's not a defense.
Right. I guarantee you, like between all the boner pills for truck drivers that, you go on the road out there, I guarantee you there for that community to serve the community, that's your resource is a hemp level product that is satisfying the few that are medicating that way, right? But it doesn't still enable good medicine because hemp is not weed. Hemp is supposed to be the rope, like you said, right? Like
Right.
the CBD component of it, yay, but it's also cannabis. Like
That CBD component was a very late entrant in the sense that Jack Hare had been dead for years before they started harping about CBD. Otherwise, he would have been harping about it. Jack Hare died in 2010, and he had that little ship that he would show people. And nowhere on that ship did he say, and then they had CBD that they rubbed into their limbs when they were hurt. Not once, because they didn't speak about it. And so then suddenly in 2018, it's, oh, extracts and derivatives. And then they said, that means all extracts, including synthetic ones. So how, do you just need to no matter what, like any type of fentanyl, any type of drug, any type of poison, any type of alcohol, any type of anything, and you just put a drop of CBD into it and just call it hemp because it's a derivative, get the fuck out of here.
And again, the people who are making money at this are investing, and they are still skirting along the law because until someone decides to enforce it, right? Like until
That's real dumb money.
Yeah,
That's real dumb money that's filing in right now. And so like Curly's and all the other big boys, they're waiting. They're watching. They're waiting. And if shit changes, there's going to be a lot of cheap equipment to pick up. Because all the hempsters would be out of business. They would all tip under because they probably don't have the best balance sheets to begin with. If I try to explain to them like what their share price is actually worth, glossed over. It's like they're just doing this for the cash right now. They have no idea what the value of their enterprise is actually worth as if it's a share of stock. That's the biggest problem that I have with it. It's just turn and burn. It's just taking something that you think you can make a quick flip on and doing it. That's not business. That's dumb money.
The bottom line, right? This ounce that I have here, because eventually, no matter how your state legalizes, a Walmart wheat's coming, right? There's going to be a Walmart of that.
Walmart wheat's not coming. We don't know that. Walmart wheat's coming if everybody's, hemp has like small business. I'm like, that is the biggest lie and shit that I've ever heard. And I understand that you guys would believe it because you want to, so that you can sell weed without a license. But where do you think all this stuff is coming from? There's 4 companies making all this stuff.
Right.
All the chemical shit, 4 companies making it. One in Indiana, one in Colorado. That probably makes 70% of the market. Every time you sell a hemp gummy or edible or vape, you are enabling a monopolist. Well, that's you're making the money. So that's the thing. As soon as you start making the money, fuck everybody else. It's my money.
But I also question too, though, is it really being sourced in America? Because a lot of this doesn't have to be sourced for the hemp product, right? Because you have the African weed and the China hemp, right? These are being bought in bulk. Will there be tariffs on that when that happens? But I was shocked to see Nebraska, though.
North Dakota did not pass Measure 5, 52.5%. No, 47.5%. South Dakota results page showed no in the lead, 55.8 to 44.2 with 95.3%. Adult use failed in heavily conservative states by sizable majorities. But then also in a heavily conservative state, there is a difference in people's mind between medical and adult use. So we're going to see. That's the thing. Like all these hempsters are so confident that Trump is going to be fine with all this stuff, getting people high without a license and all that without any pesticides or testing or anything.
I think it will be. I don't think that'll matter. There needs someone to be proactive. I don't think this administration coming up is going to be like helpful for infrastructure. If they kill the CHIPS Act or all the other shit that happened, like
They're going to kill the
program.
CHIPS Act. Going to be very helpful for the plutocrats. It's going to be very helpful for the tech industry. And so like buy the cues right now. Dump pot stocks, buy the cues.
We got Nebraska and Kentucky joining us 2024.
Nebraska is different than Kentucky. So initiative measures 437 and 438 addressed legalization of medical marijuana. Both passed. 70% of voters passed measure 437. Approved to ask voters to consider a statute that would allow the legalization, possession, and acquisition up to 5 ounces of medical cannabis with a written recommendation from a healthcare provider. And then initiative 438, about 70%, 67% voting in favor, asked voters to consider a statute to legalize the possession, manufacture, distribution, delivery, and dispensing of cannabis for medical purposes by registered private entities, being a business. The statute would also establish the Nebraska Medical Cannabis Commission to regulate the industry. I really recommend that. Your regulator should not be spread over a whole bunch of administrative bodies that don't talk to one another. We have that in Illinois. It's not the best.
No, Nebraska, and the reason why I brought up Nebraska and Kentucky, because these are both medical initiatives that pass, but people will say, and I've said it in the chat today already, we'll say it in the chat tomorrow, next time, whatever, is that hemp legalized marijuana and you're full of shit. Prop 215 in California created the conversation, enabled people to realize gloom's not here. You know, all these THC comments, THCA, you're not getting real fucking weed, period. Like I sorry, Kentucky, you're getting that hemp, that gas station.
No, they're starting to shut that down. Delta 9 is being heavily regulated in Kentucky. And then you're going to see more of that as the dispensary lottery, God forbid, happens in about 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. No lawsuits are filed. And then the clients win licenses. That's the ideal, but we'll see. Nebraska is not necessarily that big because there's only about 900,000 people in it. But the big thing is adult use, not something red states care for.
I think Cole, he really emphasizes the THCA thing, but and again, we don't. One of the failings too about this whole conversation is lab testing, standardization that needs to be on an even keel platform. We're not going to probably get time to it, but recently there's these agencies in the background, ASTM. There are engineering nonprofit people who investigate and trying to come to a collaboration of what is a fundamental, like, need to test metals, pesticides, and all that shit. But you need real adults in the room to do that. And hopefully you don't get real adults when you have to plead fidelity to something. You get real adults who have passion and care about a subject or an interest in science, biomed, Fauci. And not, when I say we, the fucking weirdos. We're going through this shit again?
Hey, we don't have a name that strain anymore in the clips roll. And so I got enough to plug around, but I don't see it. So we'll just do a little bit of technical difficulties. We'll play some name that strain, and then we're going to skip the next 3 stories and then go into the AG pick. We're going to skip Texas or mention Texas in 2 minutes, but we'll talk about Texas as we do the name that strain.
Texas is number 3 in our fucking viewers, dude. We need to go like appease Texas
right now. And I will. So what you're seeing right there is weed.
Oh, I was just going to ask if that's a nice. This qualifies hemp, I believe.
This is literally hemp. That is one of the hints. This one is literally hemp. Not like I want to sell weed and not get arrested hemp. This is literally hemp, named after somebody who a lot of people give him credit for. And then maybe let's talk about what's going on in Texas, and I'll give him more hints later.
So several counties have passed levels of decriminalization. Bastrop, depenalization measure, pass. Yay for Bastrop. Dallas, one of the bigger places, passed depenalization as well.
Better hit than its parents being Afghan skunk and the hemp strain. Those are its parents.
Hey, another question. Be bright. I always thought hemp was supposed to be the boy.
Right. No, hemp was supposed to be the cannabis that you used for non-medical purposes. That was hemp.
But
That you could use it for the purposes of hemp.
oh,
You can still grow the female plants.
it is true. It was his urban poison lover.
Trump #1 potent hybrid of the wife strain and Afghani skunk. We're going to share. It appears to be a COA, but like whenever I see a COA, I'm like, that's cute. Did you print this out yourself? Because that's how little like confidence that I have in anybody that's trying to make money from hemp. That's not trying to make it like in fiber or in food.
Again,
But,
the standardization for the lab testing is still questionable. But yeah, so what is this plainjane.co?
Yeah, it's a plantj.com, but it has like its little, you see that? Delta 9 THC 0.1. 0.1. Total cannabinoids 22. CBD 2.6. And there is by weight. CBDA was the vast majority of it, not THCA, CBDA. And so total cannabinoids 21.99. Calculated Delta 9 THC yield of 0.28. Calculated yield includes both. All the THCA cowboys forgot.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Is that $17, $18 a gram?
That is $18 for a quarter.
So these are the prices we got to be worried about eventually.
Did it pass any of the tests that your weed that's supposed to be for human use would pass? The mycology, the pesticides, the heavy metals. Those aren't in this COA because they're not actually required. Because it's not supposed to be for human consumption. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Everybody watched me do a video 2 years ago. It was in July of 23. And then satire is a thing. Just because I'm giving you the information and it doesn't make any sense, doesn't mean you should go like make a whole bunch of money and not pay me any.
The tissue pool. Yes, that's
What
the
I
deal
was
I'm talking about. It's an unfortunate, it's a thing that people are trying to write on in hemp as not get pulled over, lose my product, which they are doing, right? Like, we're not getting this federal standardization. Like, that needs to happen. Like, you're all putting this shit at risk no matter what. You know who doesn't put their shit at risk is the guy going to the gas station buying it. That's the only person in this whole scenario that
That's
gas
why
station
don't
owner
like
does.
even Cole from the Cole Memo is tuning in. Check out his stuff. And the thing is that no, they aren't. Yes, they are, and no, they aren't. And so they are positioning because they're either going to be get greenlit for 5 more years with the new farm bill, and then they will crush all of these small businesses that love the hemp industry. Or what will happen is they don't have to get into the THCA hemp world because they've kibosh on it. And Project 2025 has everything. They have all 3 branches, the courts, both houses of Congress, and the president, and Elon Musk, who's not the biggest fan of weed. We're so fucked. Really like buying coke stuff. So they have all of that, and they're just going to wait. And so like I have MSO clients that I talk to, and then I'm like, we already have all the distribution and all that stuff. It's just a little gray. I guess we'll see. That's hemp doesn't understand. They think that if they get 5 more years, it's all going to be hunky dory. No, all the monopolists that aren't already selling you all the products will be there and they'll occupy the field.
Do you remember there used to be a time that the cannabis actually had a culture, right? This hemp thing is not really a culture.
It's not had a culture since 2018.
I think it slowly evolves. So again, back to the last 2 in Texas, we got one good and one bad. Texas Lockhart did depenalize, but Texas Lubbock, if you're there, I believe there's a prison there. I think it's a federal prison. You're SOL. They didn't decriminalize.
Hey, you know what we should talk about next? Some more news that has to do with the presidential election, which of course is our main story and our focus of the show. We are going to take a deep dive in just a second about what might be the next 5 years from the Farm Bill to Schedule 3, because we're going to have to talk about the administration. Do you know who Trump's thinking about picking for his attorney general?
No, I'm turning off the news, buddy.
It's friend. Turning off the news. Yep. but this stuff's brand new in the sense that it came out on November 8th. Trump justice, who will Donald Trump name as the U.S. Attorney General? That is super important. You guys might not understand that, but it's just like Joe Biden issued the order directing his attorney general to do shit.
Yes.
So is Trump on day one after he's, again, try to get into like a restaurant after Trump has deported all the Mexicans. Good luck with that. Trying to get the strawberries. But either way, day one, deport all the illegal immigrants. I'm sorry to pick on Mexico. I didn't mean to do that, but they always say they're coming from the border. He's never talking about the Canadian border ever. The Haitians, they don't share a border with a complaint. He did start talking about planes. Still never talked about the Canadian border. Either way, you need to have an attorney general, and that attorney general then will tell the DEA what to do. So on day 2, let's give him 7 days. He can be like Jesus and shit, or God creating the universe that is making America great again. So like on day 8, because on day 7, he rests and he doesn't do any executive orders. Day 8, he could do an executive order saying, continue to reschedule marijuana to Schedule 3.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Keep it safe. Address the hemp issue. Will he? I don't know. But then who does he put in charge of the attorney general's seat? Because that person right now could be like, oh, do you guys remember the Cole memo from the Obama administration saying don't prosecute these license holders in these states? And then Jeff Sessions, good people don't use marijuana Sessions. So did Jeff Sessions. He's gone now, but he withdrew that memo.
Yeah.
But policy continued.
100%.
Policy continue again? I don't know. But let's look at who he's looking at for an attorney general. We have a few of them. And my favorite, I'm going to start with, that's Mike Lee. Mike Lee, he is a senator from Utah, which does have a medical program. It's very restricted, but it is a medical program. He co-sponsored the States Act, which was not like the CACA Act, it was COA.
Oh,
that was the Democrat bill. So he sponsored the Republican bill for allowing the states to legalize cannabis or to set the regulations for cannabis how they want. Doesn't that also fit it's going to fix the hemp problems. It's going to fix the marijuana problems and the safe banking. So Mike Lee is who I'm polling for out of the short list.
But he's an actual list.
This is an actual list from this article from the USA Today.
Okay.
So that's the one that I would be like, that's the best one for cannabis, the whole plant, even hemp, which again, if you want to see what hemp is, go to YouTube and enter into it, jackhammer boat or sailboat hemp video, and it should come up. It is a wonderful video. He will not mention CBD once. But
the rescheduling it is the only thing that's momentum-wise for citizens in every state to be equally legal. And the only reason why this is such an important issue is because Congress ain't gonna get the shit together. Trump might humbly done me some shit, but it's not gonna be probably good. I guarantee.
where you gotta have infrastructure. There's gotta be a process, a flow chart, a way that things get from A to B.
Remember the Great Toilet Paper War of 2018?
Actually, it was 2020. Like, inflation's gone, and so he started his first term with things being great, and by the time after 3 years, like just complete shit. And so he's starting now, and it's gonna be 2025. By 2028, I shit you not, if Elon Musk's robots are bankrupting people en masse because his trucks have a Tesla bot that are there, they don't need you as a job. They don't need you at Walmart. They don't need you at Amazon. They don't need you to drive a truck. They don't need you. Shit, is that going to look like in 4 years if they don't need a lawyer? Because the lawyers they still might need a doctor, but they won't want a doctor. They won't want a lawyer either, they'll just have the lawyer for his law license or her law license to blame that person in case the robot makes a mistake.
Here's what's sad. Elon never made anything. He only bought stuff, right? Like it's only been good investments. It's not like the guy's an actual fucking rocket scientist or a data scientist. He's just some guy like does fields. So the next 4 years are gonna be a fucking wild roller coaster of like unsanitary weird shit. Like the dude named his kid ABCDFG.
Which is also not her name.
Hey,
But the person we don't want for the attorney general is John Ratcliffe.
okay.
If he names John Ratcliffe, sell all your hemp holdings. Just get out of the industry because
Really?
that guy, he's National Intelligence Director and U.S. Representative from Texas 4th Congressional District, never prominently addressed marijuana or hemp legalization, even voted against the Safe Banking Act in 2019, voted against measures to prevent the Justice Department from prosecuting cannabis, the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment. He even voted against the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment. So if John Ratcliffe is named and approved as the Attorney General, we'll know we're all screwed.
We'll smoke our weed still no matter what, because
We live in legal states, and so they seem to appreciate states' rights. That's why I like Mike Lee. Mike Lee was more states' rights. We'll see about that. Well, the next thing, and so all these people that I hear about saying there's going to be hemp for years because the Republicans have won. Look at that. Ohio lawmaker wants to prohibit selling intoxicating hemp products.
there's got to be a platitude of legalization that these two are going to meet. That's just freaking inevitable if you want some sort of good plant, some sort of good product, right? This gas station hemp light stuff is ridiculous for the end consumer. It's not healthy. It's not, it's just, and again, people are gonna be like, oh, well, like I said, small business. It's small business doing this and pushing truckloads of stuff. Some people are small, like that's their whole investment, right? Like this one crop, you hope it doesn't test hot. So now you got to pay off a lab to give you some weird ass numbers for a COA.
Right.
Like there's so many variables that can go wrong trying to be legal, and that's the thing, right? I know you're saying they want to skirt the law, but right now there's all these people on the bandwagon trying to be legal somewhat. But you still got some shit going through. You have to go through some more pains. You jumped into the game a little way too early for this federal legalization thing because there's still gonna be rules. And like Tom was saying, you got the cash cow. When you're a drug dealer, when you're the source product or whatever, you got ATMs, so they don't know what their bottom line is. One of the points I was talking about with Walmart Read is like our big grow here is Fat Panda, our big revenue generator. Every state has this now. And I'm pretty sure now they're probably MSO type style, but when a business gets that large, but they have a bottom line. And honestly, dude, this stuff's pretty good. I am not mad at the quality of this plant that I get, knowing the size of the grow, right? I would love to have craft cannabis. I'd love to have my own
Panda.
but
If you want to sponsor the program, we could have your
yeah,
friend there and also there. And the name of that strains would be Fat Panda based. But get at us over at cannabislegalizationnews.com. Here is some more bad news. This state senator, it's Steve Huston. He's a Republican from Tip City that would ban the sale of intoxicating hemp. Senate Bill 326, set to return for a lame duck session. And that would define intoxicating hemp as more than 0.5 milligram of Delta-9 or 2 milligrams of Delta-9 per package. That is putting them out of business.
they're saving their cannabis industry. They're trying to protect the new licensed.
But they don't have adult use in Ohio. But and we've seen this red wave where it's, hey, they don't want adult use. They're okay with medical. Are they protecting the purity of the product that's being put on shelves by saying like this stuff we don't know about? This stuff out of the Miami Herald corroborates that. Like they took all the product and the hemp shops, and they're doing the study right now in Texas, and there's 7 shops in Texas. And I will guarantee you, if you go buy let's say somebody gives you $300,000 to do a study, as has been done now twice by the federal government in Texas, and you'd spend 10 grand buying a whole bunch of products and then 280 grand doing the actual science and writing about the study.
Just let me give you this. the incentive for states to regulate hemp, the incentive to combine both markets, hemp, cannabis, is because if these guys in Indiana are buying gas station weed, so like the Indiana cannabis market people are losing out, right? Because we're going through this right now in Illinois. Illinois is trying to make their little baby, right? I find it funny because, again, our inboxes, we had different stories that we come across, that the Illinois hemp business owners are now trying to do the whole like war on drugs argument, right? That's redundant. Like the whole social equity, they're coming after us now. No, motherfucker. There needs to be a joint law. There needs to be a, like, the farmer needs to win here. Let this guy, man, woman, person, duck, animal, elephant, grow without worrying about 0.3% hot, because you're going to have either weed you can sell in a store, or weed you got to sell on the gas station, or weed you got to, oop, it fell off a truck somewhere. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that kind of pressure is pretty fucked up. That's where we're at right now. But
Yep, that's exactly where we're at. And then it's one of these things where this is out of Marijuana Moment. Shout out to them. We talk about them basically every week, and I'm sure everybody's got their newsletter, and they should. More than $500,000 to analyze hemp-derived products that are growing in popularity. This is out of the National Institute of Standards and Tech, Sam Houston University in Texas, to distinguish between hemp and marijuana vape products. What do you think they're going to be doing? They're going to go out there and they're going to buy a whole bunch of stuff. And the separate grant to Sam Houston State University in Texas is meanwhile meant to support development of analytical methods to distinguish between hemp and marijuana. They're on to you, bro. They know. They're coming.
yeah, but that's the thing, is the farmer needs to win here. That's who we
Farm-
should, we're treating corn farmers sucking. I know, because how many, there's only 2 or 3 corn fucking large industries.
There's several thousand. Actually, like more than it's 64% of Iowa is mortgage free. And I'm from the corn. But yeah, it's one of those deals where it is a fascinating thing about how much cash flow you can get from farming, but that is a row crop agricultural commodity. We don't do that with hemp. We grow it like a horticultural crop. And so it's more like strawberries. I don't know what the big strawberry market is, but I don't think there's that many farms that farm the strawberries. And so some people's business model is to be that farm. I've read it, like the person that was granted that Shane Pennington represents, that they are like the biggest glass house in Canada and Texas. And so like they are going to be big weed, and they want clarity from the feds, and then they'll get their investment money. That's it. Everybody, the problem that we have in this industry is that everybody that's in it has a very personal relationship with the plant, and a lot of them are activists, and they forget that there's straight up business people involved.
No, there's cutthroat business people, but as an American, to empower and enable the farmer locally, because right now with hemp being the legal standard, we're getting all this outsourced material. That's why the farmer's losing out so hard. That's why the American economy is losing out. If we keep outsourcing, which is cheaper, right? These guys are bringing in China hemp, getting it manufactured, extracted, whatever. They turn that into the infused product, and now you're getting those gummies in Texas, right, with a COA. Nothing says that all this shit's made in America. We're shooting ourselves in the dick right now. Like, this is
The only regulation is that it was, at the time it was tested for potency, it was below the line. End of list. It is bullshit, and it will change. And so our next story has to do with tech, and then we'll do one about.
Wait, this is what I was talking about earlier with the new cannabis standards address quality management and manufacture practices. Why you're here? So the ASTM International, like I was talking about, their subsection D37 addresses cannabis testing and processes and standards. And then also now they added a new one, D8556, provides a concise set of QMS requirements. So that's the quality management systems. Things you're looking at, like me, the lab I run is a electronics lab. My purpose is to make sure that my customer has the best measurement, knowing the tools they're using are what they are. So that's what these guys are part of. They're helping standardize. What are we looking for? Metals, what kind of pesticides and what processing, chromatography, spectrography, the different ways of just how to get there. And that's like where we need federally. Like each state being so different, it's always been part of my, I don't trust the 29%. Let's all have the same methodology so we can all understand like the consumer transparency. Now, part of the problem with lab testing is it takes time for products to come through, right? There's a bandwidth, like with this biomed stuff, this to do the testing. So that's one of the things I think we feel as a consumer, we don't understand like why things take so long for process. If you're servicing different vendors, different stores, it just takes a while. And the more refined we get. But yeah, there's people working for that true weed, that true experience, right? I met some people here, dude. They're Dewey's. Dewey's is the name of the cannabis company. And the growers are all fucking chemical engineers. These guys have fucking phenomenal weed. You think like, well, we're past the days of the 70s and 60s where like the hippie growing now. It's people like really with a passion. But home grow will be the true legalization when we get there. But hemp is this, and they even have processes for testing hemp, by the way. Like this whole conversation, the regulation though, that's the issue, right? When do we say, okay, we're gonna put you in jail? I mean, it should be post-harvest. How do we get to that point, Donald? Like rescheduling is the only way I know how to get disparity. I don't understand any other path, right? Like Trump is not gonna fucking do anything, or Congress.
Like, that's one of the reasons why there are no answers. It is a highly risky endeavor. We've mitigated our risk for what we plan to do as much as we can until we have clarity at the federal level. But here is some stock news to end up before we say that's our show for the week. Let's do a quick stock summary. This is True Leaf Cannabis Corp. Stock ticker TCNNF, and it is down 43% over the past week. As you can see here, it was going from about $11 and then suddenly it dropped to about $5. So it lost 42% last week. And then you can see one day it lost on Friday alone, it lost another 9%. Let's check out its peer group. Its peer group is down here. Let's go to Green Thumb Industries. Everybody hates these guys. They all call them the monopolists.
Yeah.
If only they knew how much of a monopoly was in hemp. Go ahead.
Go back to Truly and answer me this, because you can help educate me about stocks where I understand business in the sense of like, it's like eating food, right? You want to lose weight, you better get less and do more or whatever, right? So this Truly stock just took a shit for a minute, but they reported positive quarterly earnings recently. It's like, how does that stock? Because I thought like the more money as a business you're bringing in as cash goes to the value of your whole shebang. So
it's one of the reasons why I can't wait for us to go public. Time. And we are going to be diversified. If anything, hopefully we're more of a Berkshire Hathaway that's just basically a holding company. And then we will go over assets being securities or other offerings and ownership that you can have of particular things. That is tune. We're going to put that up. Okay. And so this is Trump Media Group. And so over the past 5 days, it really hasn't done much, which is quite fascinating. After the past month, it should be up quite a bit more. And the reason for this is Truth Social. The financials on it make no sense.
correct.
Like it's got a beta, which basically means if the stock market goes up or down by 1%, it goes up or down by 5.5%. So it lost $19 million in the last quarter, and they reported those earnings on election day. The only reason that stock has any value is because you at home think it does.
What if though, say per se, the website crashes and this, because they're negative, right?
They lost $19 million. We didn't lose $19 million last quarter. I have obligations and jobs, and there's some AR, but I tighten up our collections to, no, you don't pay us after 90 days.
Is stock like an NFT though? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if the website
Well,
crashes?
yes and no, it is. And so stocks can make no sense. So the cash flow, it makes no sense as well.
Yeah.
And our CFO Slobodan will just, I'll have like long discussions with him over like the price action of certain aspects. And I tell him, like, he thinks like short Tesla, short it makes 0 sense. And like, that's why you should go long it, or at least be flat it and don't try to trade it because it doesn't make no sense, and avoid that because the market, like you only see all the bodies and the tide goes out or the tide ain't out.
Yeah.
So you can have all sorts of, they call it animal spirits or irrational exuberance. And the stocks don't make no sense. But then like with our C Corp, the way that we'd be able to value it is called discounted cash flow analysis. Here's the money we made. Here's the expenses we had. Here's the cash flow that you have. That equals a share price. But then once you put it in the public market, you can still report those earnings per share and those earnings every quarter. Like, we made this much money, we spent this much money. This is where we're projecting for the next year. This is our build. This is what we're going to use for the allocation of the retained earnings and yada, yada. And so depending on how fast your sales are growing, you can get what they call like very high PE, price to earnings ratios. Hey, if you're just tuning in, did you know that I used to be a stockbroker after I graduated from law school? It's true. It was 2008. And so I now use my stock broken for Vietnamese business. They were going to see a sales explosion. And so the stock market is a leading indicator in the sense that it is pricing in data before it happens. And so they were pricing in the risk that they would make $1 bazillion million into the future, into the share price of Trulieve. And it turned out that was false. And so it then sold off 40%, which of course is way too much for it to sell off. It will still probably grow or at least make the same amount of cash flows. But this quarterly profit thing is very real in our license, and it will prevent us from being able to be as lucrative as possible, because the medical people that are already publicly traded will do everything in their power to ensure that they can beat on earnings, including fucking us over and then getting into hemp and taking all their shit.
No, I get you. You look at the bigger picture, like
but the hamsters and like the activists don't even fucking understand this stuff. And I'm like, okay, we need some regulations here. Let's shut this down. Let's make sure that goes this way. Because 2%. That was at 420 again. That's our show, everybody. Let's wrap this up. We have any other scores? That is our show. We end with bye-bye cannabis money. And then I want to give you guys a little bit of something to look forward to. You can come see Miggy and me.
Yes.
That's right. We will both be at the MJ BizCon. So it is the manufacturer pavilion. They have the growers, they have the retailers, and now the manufacturers. And we will be doing our podcast from, there I am. I'm one of the there. We are still in discussions. I got to talk to Dimitri over at Meta this coming week. I will also be in Jefferson City, Missouri on Tuesday for the marijuana micro business licenses in Missouri. And then I will be doing a phone conference with the editorial board of the Sun-Times, the Chicago Sun-Times, on Tuesday, because now we're in the veto session and I want them to make sure that they put hemp back to where it belongs on a ship. That's cannabis. We need that stuff tested and regulated.
Yeah. And if you want to meet up on there, because I'll leave there on the 4th, 5th, and 6th, send me an email. Let's schedule it. Because I think MJ Biz is such a kind of a cool time where to see what the process of legalization is. It's so like manufacturing business is not the sexiest thing, but it pays a lot of bills. It pays for people's lives. And so it's cool to see. It's such a big event where it's a lot of walking. My knee's doing better, so I'll be able to, I had to sit down a lot last time, but
we'll play some pickleball. Right. Because that's the other thing, right? We'll be doing interviews. And so we're going to make some content for this. We need to buy some gear and then we'll get there and then we'll have more episodes. You can hit us up over at mjbiz.com. We hope to see you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week, hopefully with more news.